back in the piece we're going to run. Can you hear me? Tell him Nick Saban's got a special message.
Live from Columbia, this is Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network. Be a part of tonight's show. Call us at 800-956-7266 or email talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now, here are your hosts for Sports Talk, Bill Kornblum, Kevin McCurry, and Tom Hayes.
Last year, you'd actually been wrong 17 out of 21 times. Now you're wrong 18 out of 22, but you've also not picked the right team the last 5 years in a row. And every year that we've been fortunate enough to win the championship, you pick somebody else to win it. So just to let you know that we're evaluating you. Thank you.
Well, if Nick Saban is evaluating the media, then we get a big fat F for our ability to predict the eventual SEC champion every year. His team was picked this year, picked to beat South Carolina in the SEC championship game. Now, he did not know that, he said, at the time he made that comment. He said he wasn't aware of who the media had picked at that point. He was going by the math of the most recent years leading up to today. But his team was the pick, much to my surprise, because I picked Auburn to win it all. I did pick South Carolina to win the East as we went over last night. But it is Alabama the choice this time to win the championship. He also pointed out that every time his team, since he's been in Alabama, has won the championship, they weren't picked by the media to win the championship. So not so sure he feels good about our decision here. Welcome into Sports Talk, final night from Hoover at SEC Media Days. Phil Kornblut here. Meantime, back at our studios in Columbia, K-Mac, Kevin McCrary, Professor Tom Hayes, and the state man, Graham Pope. 4 Gamecocks on that preseason All-SEC team. We'll tell you about that in a moment. But, guys, you've seen the voting. What do you think?
Oh, it's about right. I think you have to pick South Carolina. They lost some veteran leadership, but this team has been so close so many times, and beating the team that eventually represented the East in the championship game. But that one hiccup, this time it was Tennessee last year, and they didn't make it. Nick Saban inadvertently answered Steve Spurrier's question about how hard he's working. Well, see, part of that time he's evaluating the media. That's why he's in the office. Maybe if he wasn't evaluating the media, he would have had some faster players on the field when they missed that field goal that Auburn turned back.
Well, you know what this does, Corn, in with the past 3 seasons with 11 wins, now this makes it official. If the Gamecocks don't win the East this year and go to Atlanta, regardless of what happens in the season finale against Clemson, regardless of what happens in the bowl game, I think USC fans and maybe the media in the national media as a whole will view this season as a disappointment for the Gamecocks.
Yeah, I think they're at that stage where not winning the East any year is a disappointment. They are where Georgia and Florida in the East have lived for a long, long time. Not winning the East is a disappointment, and it should be for them. Just like Alabama, Auburn, not winning the West, and really in the case of Alabama, not winning the national championship is disappointing for them, and you throw LSU into that same boat. We have got a lot to catch you up on here tonight. We'll tell you what's coming up in just a moment.
The mental list, or the mental losses. Heard. Are we back to spots, huh? Let me go print. I'll be right back. All right, you got an idea when you want to start running this stuff? Okay. All right, stand by.
Busy edition of Sports Talk. We'll hear from, among others, Nick Saban tonight. I know South Carolina doesn't play Alabama in the regular season, maybe in the postseason, but you always want to hear what Saban has to say. And he had plenty to say, including denying the report that he was offered anything from Texas. He said he never talked to Texas. He was never made an offer from Texas, and thus he had no interest in Texas. So, either he's lying or Paul Feinbaum and his co-author, they're lying. You make the decision if you want to buy their book and read it.
It's called plausible.
Denies it.
It calls plausible denial, meaning my agent talked to them, but I didn't. So
well, that's true.
$100 million. That seems a little far-fetched, potentially.
Now you know why gas prices are so high. Those
in
all
Texas
men.
in particular.
My answer would have been, do you think I'd be sitting here talking to you right now if Texas would have offered me $100 million?
Really. We'll hear from him, and we'll hear a little bit from Mark Stoops, the Kentucky coach. Kentucky was through here today as well. And we've got an interview with Clemson receiver coach and recruiting coordinator Jeff Scott coming your way, too. By the way, and we heard from Chad Morris the other night. I think we played that last night. And I was just reading some quotes that he gave to Larry Williams the other day, guys, about what Larry calls the cock clock, and that's the countdown clocks that they have in the Clemson football offices counting down to the South Carolina game. And I found these comments from Chad Morris to be very interesting. He told Larry the following quote, "We're 0-5. It's a straight-up message. There ain't no beating around it. They beat us 5 years in a row. It's got to stop. Simple." He was asked if players responded positively to the clocks, and he said simply, quote, "Well, we'll find out in about 137 days. And actually, Tuesday was 137 days from the game. He said, quote, "You get tired of hearing it. At some point, you've got to do something about it." So the question is, does Clemson have enough to back up those words? They're certainly pissed off about it, and they're certainly focused on it. 137 days and more out, they've been focused on it. Is that enough for Clemson to end the streak?
Well,
No.
Yeah, they're not going to win the game because of a clock that's counting down. By the time that clock hits zero and toe meets leather in Death Valley in late November, that's going to mean nothing, but it does give them a certain focus. If Clemson snaps that streak, and they're going to eventually, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. They're going to win that game again, and it could be this year at home, but it won't have anything to do with the clock. Now, if they lose, it won't have anything to do with the clock either. The only thing that clock does, it's another thing that people are going to poke at you. If you do lose another game, they're going to go, and you had that stupid clock up, blah, blah, blah. But if you win, you're a genius, and the clock looks wonderful, and they can flip it the other way and have it counting down how long it's been since South Carolina's beat them. They did this at Auburn last year. They beat Alabama up on the board. It worked out okay, and Chad Morris told us,
in a freak way, it worked out okay.
Well, it worked out, but also at Ohio State, Chad Morris, that's where he got the idea. He's walking through the horseshoe, and he saw that up there, and he went to Brent Venables, and let's do it. So,
well, here's the interesting thing. Sometimes you learn how to vanquish your enemy by learning from your enemy. When did South Carolina start to put into motion the building blocks of Steve Spurrier to start beating Clemson? Steve Spurrier came in, I see all this Clemson stuff around here. We play more teams than this. Take this stuff down. Y'all talk about Clemson too much. We got other teams we got to play. And then suddenly, oh, okay, yeah, it's another game. Suddenly, when you think of it as a football game and not life and death, you tend to play better. Clemson, for all the 5 games they played, the last loss to South Carolina looked like they did panic. like they were thinking too much about what to do in the game instead of just free-flowing and playing football. And maybe Spurrier gives them the answer by looking at what he did at South Carolina, by taking all the Clemson stuff down.
So will it be safe to say if the Gamecocks win this year in Death Valley, Gamecock fans can say that USC clocked Clemson?
Sure, Corn. You can say that.
Okay. And if you really want to be funny,
all day he's been roaming around Birmingham thinking about that.
Gamecocks clock Tigers.
Or it works both ways. If Clemson wins, they can say they clocked the Gamecocks.
Absolutely.
Yeah, cold clocked them.
Yes, they're ice cold cocks. Cold cocked the Gamecocks.
All right, to the SEC poll and team now from the media. A record 293 media members voted this time. They've gone digital with that, so I think that's enticed more of the media to vote. In the East, it's South Carolina, followed by Georgia, Florida, Missouri, Tennessee, Vanderbilt, Kentucky. I think I had Vanderbilt ahead of Tennessee in my poll. Everything else I had the same. Out West, Alabama, by a wide margin, a little more than double over Auburn. I'm sorry, I'm looking at the championship thing. Let's go back to the West. Alabama, Auburn, LSU, Ole Miss, Mississippi State, A&M, and Arkansas. In the championship breakdown, it's Alabama, Auburn, South Carolina got 32 votes to win the championship. That might be their most ever. I'd have to go back and check. 32 votes to win the championship. Could be their most ever. Georgia, LSU, Ole Miss, Arkansas. Somebody voted for Arkansas to win the SEC championship.
Well, Corn, you say media votes for this, but that is a pretty loose term at SEC media days. Media should be in quotes, the air quotes around media. There are a lot of fans.
Say, everybody here either has a laptop, has a pad and pen, or they have a camera.
Right.
So everybody's walking around.
And how many of those people were wearing apparel of the team that they were, air quotes here, covering? I love those media members that cover Alabama that are wearing Crimson Tide shirts and visors.
You're asking a serious question. I will give you a serious answer.
Thank you.
I did not see a lot of that. I did not see a lot of now listen, you got your guys that work for the websites that cover the teams. And they might have been wearing a shirt that represented their particular website, like Hog Illustrated or whatever the case may be. But I didn't see a lot of the folks decked out in the colors of the teams that they cover. So maybe some people are growing up and maturing about this stuff a little bit. I will say this: there were about, I don't know, hard for me to estimate, a couple of hundred of Alabama fans jammed into the lobby, and they were here like all day because Alabama didn't come until the afternoon wave. And they were here lining up at 9 o'clock this morning, just waiting to get a glimpse of Saban and the Tide players that came through and trying to get an autograph.
And touch his robe.
Yeah, really. All right, first team offense. Nick Marshall, the quarterback. Running backs are T.J. Yeldon and Todd Gurley. Receivers, Amari Cooper and Sammy Coates. The tight end is O.J. Howard from Alabama. Offensive lineman, Lael Collins of LSU, Ari Kwanjo, Alabama, Laramie Tunsil, Ole Miss, Cedric Ogbui from Texas A&M, I'm sure I'm mispronouncing that, and Reese Dismukes of Auburn is the center. On the second team from South Carolina, you've got Mike Davis, you've got A.J. Cann, and you've got Corey Robinson. Second team quarterback, Dak Prescott. Third team quarterback, Bo Wallace. On defense, first team, Robert Kimdichie of Ole Miss. That's still just on potential. He didn't do enough last year to earn first team honors, in my opinion. Dante Fowler of Florida. Ashawn Robinson of Alabama. Gabe Wright of Auburn. Linebackers are Trey DePriest of Bama. A.J. Johnson of Tennessee. Rameek Wilson of Georgia. And the secondary, Landon Collins of Bama. Vernon Hargraves III of Florida. Cody Pruitt of Ole Miss. Deshazer Everett, Texas A&M, and USC's Bryson Williams was named to the third team. So that's the four Gamecocks selected for the All-SEC team. By the way, Alabama had another player arrested. A second time in 8 days. Jerron Reed, a defensive lineman, arrested Sunday morning, charged with DUI. He had a blood alcohol content of 0.13. A week ago, Tide running back Kenyon Drake was arrested for obstructing governmental operations, whatever that means. We'll be back in a moment.
All right, stand by.
Georgia also came through today. We'll hear from Mark Ricks a little bit later on in the program. Might try and squeeze in some phone calls, too, 800-956-7266. And hopefully you're following us on Twitter. If you haven't signed up yet to follow us on Twitter, it's very easy. Just go to Twitter. Sports Talk SC is our Twitter handle, and follow us there. The website loaded with stuff, sportstalksc.com. And we will continue to load it up as we go to ACC Media Days Sunday and Monday. It'll be different from here because it's handled differently at the ACC. We won't have the volume of material there, but we'll still have it covered for you as best as possible. And on Facebook, Sports Talk Radio Network is the address there. All right, let me mention a couple of other things of major importance. Mike Davis of USC, preseason candidate for the Doak Walker Award, presented to the nation's top college running back. Well, considering, guys, that he finished in the top 4 in the voting for running backs in the SEC, you got to place him among the elite running backs in the country.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he was a semifinalist for that award last year, rushed for almost 1,200 yards and 11 touchdowns, despite the fact that he was pretty, broken down might be overstating it a bit, but he was definitely running on fumes, let's say, by the end of the year.
Yeah, absolutely. Now to the world of the crazies, and too bad this dude wasn't here so he could, have an orgasm over the arrival of the Alabama crew. This crane operator, Bobby Livingston, who was fired this week for hanging an Alabama flag at the Kyle Field at Texas A&M while working there during its renovation. And on his Facebook page, according to mysanantonio.com, he said he sabotaged Kyle Field. He said, quote, "This stadium will never be ready for this season. I'm putting iron in backwards and wrong-holing everything." He said, quote, if you ever attend a Texas A&M football game, don't sit at the northeast end zone. It was raining today, and I made 2 very questionable welds. And now the chief engineering firm that's handling the renovations, the spokesman there say their people have gone all over the work and everything is fine. They said everything has been checked and the welds have been tested and verified, and they're getting in all this engineering terms. But, I mean, what a nut job to even suggest that.
This is, these Alabama fans are taking it to a whole nother level. I mean, burning down the trees
Killing
now.
trees.
Now they're going to, make Kyle Field implode upon itself. And this guy's probably just blowing hot air. But if you're Texas A&M, you have to take that sort of thing serious, and you have to go back and check it all. And it probably is costing them certainly time and maybe time and money. And this guy's going to probably end up with a couple state troopers knocking on his door now.
Yeah, that hot air is going to get him in the cooler because that's a felony. I mean, if somebody gets hurt, and even if he had nothing to do with it, they're going to turn to him and say it was his fault.
I would agree wholeheartedly. We're going to hit a break here at the bottom of the hour. We'll be back. Don't go away.
Mike's not back till tomorrow, Corn. Tomorrow. He said he's back tomorrow. That doesn't sound too insane, does it? Jeremy Lin for Kevin Love. Straight up. No questions. Lin never cared. Everybody thought I was an imbecile 3 years ago. It's hilarious that the average fan has no idea that everybody in the NBA, if they were given the green light, could score pretty much at will. I guess they've never gone to go see a live game to see them shoot, and every single time it goes in. But guess what? If you're Jeremy Lin and you play on a real team and you start you're shooting like that and looking as sorry as you are, you get cut. Defense, defense. Stand by.
We are back at Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network, final day from SEC Media Days. And we are in a daze after 4 days of listening to coaches talk about themselves, their universities, and their teams. And coming up, we're going to hear from Mark Richt, Georgia coach, here shortly on Sports Talk. A couple of other things that I want to pass along to you. A lot of TV news today. Southern Conference announcing its TV schedule for this year, with Sinclair Television getting involved with a new network that's going to be providing Southern Conference and Big South Conference games. And our old friend, the pastor of Payne, Corey Miller, is going to be doing the color commentary, along with another old friend, Darren Goldwater, who will be doing the play-by-play. So congratulations. I think the pastor of Payne, guys, is on the way up the ladder in television circles to doing some big things.
He's got a personality that can fill up a room and then some, that's for sure.
Got a booming voice.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, and he knows his stuff. He's a great guy. A lot of fun to be around. But, yeah, when Corey Miller walks into a room, everybody knows Corey Miller has walked into that room.
Here are the local games to be picked up on television from the Southern Conference. Furman at Mercer on September 6th. That's Furman against Bobby Lamb. That should be quite intriguing there. On September 6th, 6 o'clock, ESPN3. Western Carolina at Furman, September 27th. That's on that new network, the American Sports Network. Citadel at Wofford on ESPN3 at 1:30. Wofford at Western, well, that's on October 4th. October 11th, Wofford at Western. 3:30 on the trio. On can we call it? What can we call the tray? I guess we have the Deuce and then the tray. ESPN3.
Or you can just call it, ESPN.
Oh, the Deuce of clubs.
Chattanooga at the Citadel, October 18th on the American Network. Furman at VMI, November 1st on 3. Wofford at Chattanooga, November 8th on 3. Wofford at Furman, November 15th on 3. Citadel at VMI, November 22nd on 3, and Chattanooga at Furman, November 22nd on the American Network. So that's the rundown of the state teams getting the exposure there. Coastal Carolina's Lorenzo Taliaferro, former football player, and Winthrop women's basketball player DeQuestia McClanahan been named the Big South Conference male and female student athletes of the year. And Stuart Lake at Charleston Southern, the baseball coach, has been given a 4-year contract extension. First round of the British Open, and it is Rory McIlroy back in form and on top, 6 under 66. Mateo Manacero, 5 under 67. Jim Furyk, Sergio Garcia, and a few others are tied at 4 under. Do you know who Sergio dates, by the way?
I have not kept up with his significant other.
Well, he dates a former College of Charleston golfer. I didn't know that until I was reading about it in the newspaper. Let's see. As far as Tiger 3 under 69, very good, very much in the hunt. Dustin Johnson, 1 under today for Dustin Johnson. Bill Haas, 2 under 70. Dustin Johnson, 1 under 71. And who else came back? We have
Ben Martin was 1 under. Yeah, he was 1 under.
Did he finish at 1 under?
Yes, he did.
1 under 71. Very good. All right, let's get to some stuff from here at SEC Media Days. Mark Richt, one of the coaches to come through today. The Georgia head man, 14th year ahead for him at Georgia. he gives us a little bit of a peek of what's ahead for the Bulldogs.
Extremely excited about this football team. I think we have a tremendous culture right now for work ethic. I think we have a tremendous culture of guys wanting to lead in the right way. I think our coaching staff did a super job in the off season, meaning prior to the pre-spring conditioning and the springtime, just kind of setting the tone, setting the tempo for the expectations, and I think the players are responding extremely well. I think the camaraderie of our staff is tremendous. I think that's important. It kind of bleeds down to the rest of the team. I've got a bunch of great coaches that are highly competent, highly competitive, and just, you know, good men of character that care about young men and care about their families and all that kind of thing. That just makes Georgia a great place to be. So looking forward to getting started here August 1st and you know, finishing up the preparation for the season. So with that, I'll open it up.
Yeah, Coach, Edgar Thompson with the Orlando Sentinel. What's it been like without having Aaron Murray around on both a playing and also a personal level for you?
Right. Aaron, obviously a great player, a great leader, just a great person. And when you lose a guy like that, it can be tough. The blessing for us is Hudson Mason being in the program, you know, going into his 5th season, a guy that got a chance to watch Aaron's work ethic and see how he ran the off-season program and how he would organize pass skeleton and those types of things. And then just the fact that Hudson has the respect of his teammates, has the confidence of his teammates and coaches to take on that leadership mantle. And so not to say that we don't miss Aaron, because we do, but, you know, it was time for him to go in regard to that's just college athletics, you know. After 4 seasons, you're out of here. And we wish him well. We wish his brother well on the Bachelorette, by the way. But I think Hudson being there and us knowing Hudson's the guy, the team knowing Hudson's the guy, Hudson knowing how everything works. You know, Hudson's been in our system, well, obviously going into his 5th year, but there's been no change in our system. You know, he has the blessing of being with Coach Bobo the entire time, being in the same system the entire time, seeing Murray doing it and having a chance to start a few games last year as well. So I think we'll transition well.
You had a couple of Connor Riley for the Red and Black. You had a couple of unexpected departures in your secondary. How important is it to have leaders like Ramik and Damian Swan kind of coaching the new guys on your team?
No doubt. The leadership of those guys, Ramik, Amarlo Herrera, Damian Swan, Corey Moore, it's so crucial to help the young guys. And young guys are going to play again for us. You know, that was kind of the deal a year ago, and now we're kind of in the same boat. But the one thing that I think is really crucially important is the fact that Jeremy Pruitt, our defensive coordinator, coaches the defensive backfield. And I think when a coordinator is in charge of the backfield and understands what it means to play that position, play those positions, I don't think he's going to call anything that those guys can't execute. The worst thing that can happen is just give up a big play because somebody blew it. It's poor communication, whatever it is. And Jeremy's going to make sure that anything that gets called in that game, that secondary is going to be able to execute. The other thing is, you know, a year ago at Florida State while he was there, I think 2 of his starters were true freshmen in the backfield a year, you know. So, you know, he's done it before. He's not afraid to do that. You know, we feel like we're going to be just fine.
Caleb Odom, Columbia Daily Herald. Coach, you guys opened last year against Clemson and lost that close one. What are you expecting out of the game this year facing them?
Well, I'm glad to be home. I'm glad that the game's going to be between the hedges. I know our fans are going to be just off the chain, ready for it. I think our players will, coaches will. Tremendous opponent in Clemson. Obviously, they got us last year, and hopefully we can turn it around and get them.
That's Mark Richt's way of showing emotion.
Off the chain
and
gang.
Excitement about a game, yeah.
His fans are going to be off the chain gang.
They'll be coming from behind the hedges.
They're going to be work release program back in the stadium.
I think Georgia's going to get Clemson in that opener. I really do. I think it's going to be a low-scoring, kind of a defensive-dominated game, running game dominated by Georgia. Not dominated, but that's what they're going to do as much damage as they can. I see Georgia winning that one. Back in a moment.
About to see the tall sweep make a comeback next year. Gurley sweep. Curly sweep left. Sweep left. Sweep right. Kid's still special though, man. Gurley. $3.15. You want to run it here? Okay. And Stoops is the one I haven't grabbed yet. Let me look. Stoops is 239, Corn. Okay.
Sports Talk on a Thursday night, final nights at SEC Media Days in Hoover. And, of course, we'll be moving on back to Columbia tomorrow night, then on to Greensboro Sunday, and, of course, Monday night Sports Talk from Greensboro. We'll be all over the ACC media days for you as well. Come back from that next week. We've got Steve Spurrier's golf tournament on Wednesday, and he'll talk with the media, as well as some assistant coaches will talk with the media. Also next Wednesday, Brett Favre in Columbia for a special engagement. We'll have that covered for you. And then coming up on the 30th, it's the coaches gathering, Fisher DeBerry's annual drawing together of coaches around the state in Columbia. So we got all that coming up for you over the next couple of weeks, leading up to the start of practice. That's right, I said practice. Now remember, when you're out on the water the rest of this summer, we encourage you to have fun, but please never drink and drive your boat. Always designate a driver and always wear your life jacket. Not much left to the summer, so let's make it safe the rest of the way. Make sure we see you at the ball games coming up this fall. We'll hear from Nick Saban next hour. Mark Stoops coming up in a little bit. Want to go back to Georgia Clemson. Mark Richt talking about Georgia, and he feels good about his team. He feels good about Hudson Mason, likes his defense, likes Jeremy Pruitt over there running the defense. Of course, he's got to feel good about having Todd Gurley, Keith Marshall, a hotshot freshman in the, what's his name, Sonny Michael. Am I right about that? Hotshot freshman running back. So, guys, when you look at that game against Clemson playing in Athens, if this game were at Death Valley, I might feel a little bit different about it. But being in Athens, opening game of the season, you got Cole Stout going out as the starting quarterback, at least for now, and he'll be, let's face it, he's going to be playing, if he is a starter, he's going to be playing with one eye looking back over his shoulder, knowing that any moment Deshaun Watson could be trotting onto the field and taking over. So I just think it points towards Georgia winning that ball game.
Well, he'd rather be looking back over his shoulder than standing on the bench like he's been the last few years. But
when Watson comes trotting out on the field, that's where he's going, and he may not come back out.
Well, here's the big question. I don't care where the game is. If Georgia gets out inside the 5-yard line this time and still hand it to the fullback, Clemson still wins.
Yeah. Well, we were talking about Clemson still. Well, I think it's going to be tougher for Georgia to run the ball on Clemson this year than it was a year ago. I count me as sold on this Clemson defensive line. They were better towards the end of the year than they were last year. I watched them in the spring game. They have 2 solid units on their defensive line. They split the guys up, and both teams in the spring game had solid defensive lines. Now, I know Post back there, he thinks that Gurley is Herschel Walker on steroids.
Let me give you the poll question. How many yards per carry do you think Todd Gurley had last year against Clemson?
Well, that's last year. I said it's going to be more
now
difficult.
Now we're going into his junior season, coming into a fresh.
He had 12.8 yards per carry.
13 yards to carry, 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, and he was hurt a chunk. It could have been, dominant.
Now he's at home.
Dominant performance against Clemson, no doubt about it. But there's 2 factors that are playing.
And it's the same defensive front came out.
Well,
it's the same defensive front.
But not the same quarterback back there.
Not the same exactly. Aaron Murray's not back there. If you're Clemson, you can sell out on the run and say, you know what, we're going to make this guy beat us. We're going to make this guy go out there and beat us.
That's what you should do.
We're going to bottle up Gurley. We're going to bottle up Marshall, and we're going to say, Georgia, you're going to have to pass the ball on us. Put it up there and see if our defensive backs can make a play. And, we're coming after you when you pass the ball, too. Our defensive line, Vic Beasley, he's going to be coming after you. Grady Jarrett's going to be coming right at your face. So I think Clemson will have a little more opportunity to throw different looks at Georgia to make it a little more difficult than just handing the ball to Gurley, because they should have handed the ball to Gurley. Two more carries to Gurley, they win that game.
That's why I said they had it to the fullback.
I agree.
Georgia had 545 yards in that game.
Oh, they
averaged 7.8 yards per play, but they had 9 penalties. Okay, that hurt them. They fumbled 3 times, lost 1. And they had an interception, so they had 2 turnovers and 9 penalties.
And the missed field goal. Don't forget the missed field goal they had inside the 5.
And a brain cramp from Mike Bobo handing to the fullback inside the 5-yard line. By the way, if Mark Richt took any lessons,
I can promise you right now. I will promise you, as I sit here right now, in the name of Tommy Frazier, that barring injury, now injury changes everything, Gurley will carry the ball 25 times minimum against Clemson.
You know, it'd be interesting if Mark Richt didn't look at the Clemson-Carolina game and put Gurley in the Wildcat and just call the quarterback draw up the middle.
Mm-hmm. That's an idea. Don't give him ideas, but that is an idea. Okay, we're going to hit a break. Mark Stoops, some comments from the UK coach coming up. Now, somebody's got to bring up the rear in everything, and so the last would be last here today. Kentucky last in the balloting, last in the East, probably last in the overall voting, and the last team in today to talk to us. Mark Stoops, going into his second year, went 0-8 in the league last year. Joker Phillips 0-8 before him. In fact, they've only won 2 of their last 24 SEC games. Not sure it's going to get any better anytime soon, but Stoops trying to be optimistic.
Excited about this team. This team has worked extremely hard. They've done everything we've asked them to do. It's been a short 18 months, but the players have worked hard. I think the area where we needed to improve the most was leadership. I feel like our players have worked hard to be better leaders, to be more accountable, to be more dependable to their teammates and to the program. I think the other area is physically. We constantly talk in our program about recruiting and development, and we're certainly recruiting at a very high level. I've been very pleased with the way things have gone in recruiting the past 2 recruiting classes, and now I think you're going to start to see the fruits of our labor when it comes to physical development. Our players have put in the time. Our training staff has done a great job getting them prepared. We're physically better, and hopefully that'll translate to more wins. So we played 8 true freshmen last year, 4 first-year junior college players. We have 15 returning starters, and 36 guys in our program have started at least 1 game. So we're starting to build a little bit of depth. We're still a little young. We have roughly 60% of our team is been a part of our program since January 2013 when I arrived. So with that being said, we're excited. I think offensively you're going to see a big improvement. I know everybody's Asked a lot about our quarterback situation. We're still unsettled on who the starter is going to be, but I'm very confident that we're going to improve at that position. And it starts with the players around them. Our wide receivers will be better. 4 of our top 5 pass catchers were first-year guys in our program a year ago. 3 true freshmen and 1 junior college transfer. Our leading rusher was a true freshman. So those guys being a little bit older, being a little stronger, more experienced is going to help the quarterbacks as well. So defensively, it starts with 2 of the guys that I have here, Bud Dupree and Zadarius Smith, 2 extremely talented defensive ends, great leaders. Very proud of those 2 that are with us, along with Jordan Swindle, junior offensive lineman that has been exceptional this offseason and taking that leadership and pushing the offensive guys.
All right, Mark Stoops. You can really trace their primary issue, quarterback. They haven't had good quarterback play at Kentucky in a long time. Here's their problem. They've got a redshirt freshman, Reese Phillips, and they've got a true freshman from the state of Kentucky that they signed, and they're going to be the ones competing. And, they're too young to win at that position. Top of the hour.
Better talk to Chad Morris. But Deshaun's great. It's a hell of a transition. All right, gents, stand by.
Live from Columbia, this is Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network. Be a part of tonight's show. Call us at 800-956-7266 or email talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now, here are your hosts for Sports Talk, Phil Kornbluth, Kevin McCrary, and Tom Hayes.
And we're back, hour number 2, Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. Radio Row here in Hoover. Last night of media days for the SEC. We're at the Hyatt Regency Winfrey Hotel. And, guys, I am in recruiter heaven right now. Recruiter heaven. You know why? If I were a college football recruiter, I'd like to be right where I am. We're in a corridor that connects the hotel to the Galleria shopping mall. There's a big 7-on-7 high school tournament taking place right down the road at Hoover High School. And as I've been sitting here throughout the show, there's been one team after another going back and forth from the hotel lobby to the Galleria. I've seen Opelika from Alabama. I've seen Grayson from Georgia. I've seen several others. I mean, there's been just dozens of teams. No doubt some major talent has been walking back and forth in front of my eyes. And if I were an evil recruiter, I could be sitting here talking to them and enticing them to come play for me and get an education.
Well, that's probably what some Alabama fans are doing for Nick Saban as they walk through.
Yeah, I call them, Cameron has their crazies, the Cameron crazies. I call them the Winfrey wackos, those Alabama fans that come here and stand for hours to get a glimpse at. And I mean, they stand there for hours.
Watch out. One of those guys hears that, they might follow you home.
This is true.
With these Alabama fans, killing trees, trying to collapse football stadiums. You don't know what they're going to do next.
I would agree. You have to be very careful about what you say. Speaking of Alabama, we have got the god of Alabama coming up. I'm telling you, he's a small guy. You ever see Nick Saban in person? I mean, he's about 5'6", 5'7"?
The classic Napoleonic complex.
Yeah, but I mean, the guy's a genius. He is. He's a football genius. He's a great recruiter, and obviously has an approach and an intellect that works and works in a big way. And around this place, man, you talk about walking on water, he's probably about the only one that can do it right now because they don't touch him. They revere him and treat him like he is above the human race, I'll tell you that. And he's fun to listen to because he is the man, and he does demand your attention. I mean, he's got a boatload of credibility. He's earned it. He's paid his dues. He's won everywhere that he's been except, 2 years in the NFL where he struggled with the Dolphins, I think it was. Yeah. So I always enjoy listening to people like that, and they command your attention. And he used the setting today to get across, much like Spurrier does. Spurrier is somewhat the same way.
Well, who did he work for?
If he could win another national championship, he would command even more. Who did he work for?
Yeah, Bill Belichick. They act a lot alike.
Mm-hmm. We're going to hear from him after the break.
Bring it on, bring it on. I got no problem with that. What you want to run here, Corn? Not particularly. If only you were Tony Morrell. Oh, that's right. I believe you called him something else.
You know, our situation as a team is a lot different. I think we're evaluating you. Thank you.
Thank you, Coach. Yeah, it's 9:15, so we got to be quick.
Information. Information. Information.
Okay, it was Alabama Day here at SEC Media Days. Let's get right into it. Here is Crimson Tide's head man, Nick Saban.
You know, our situation as a team is a lot different, I think, this year than it's been the last couple of years when we were coming off of successful seasons and championship seasons, and the challenges were so much different in terms of trying to deal with success and complacency. And having lost our last, 2 games last year, I think it's a little bit different mindset with our players. You know, we have to reestablish our identity, as a team at Alabama, and it's going to take every player to have a tremendous amount of buy-in for us to be able to do that. I think you basically need to check your ego at the door, all of us in our organizations, players, coaches, everybody in our organization, and really trust and believe in the things that have helped us be successful, and have enough humility to understand our role and what we need to do to help the team be successful, and certainly have the willingness as a family and a group to serve each other and help each other so that we have the best opportunity to accomplish this. And it's not really about judging. It's not really about complaining. It's not really about questioning. It's really about buying in and actually doing all that you can do to submit to the things that you have to do to have the best opportunity to be successful. We're basically an unproven team in some areas. There's a lot of question marks, because of the players that we lost and the players that we have coming in. And in some cases, there are critical positions, like quarterback. We have a transfer player, Blake Sims, who's been in the program, who's a little different style quarterback, who was our quarterback in the spring, and is certainly going to compete for the position, and a couple other young guys who haven't really played much. So this is an unproven area for us, and creates a question mark as to there's always going to be a process that a player has to go through to play winning football. So, but it does create a little question mark as to, when is this going to resolve itself? We've got a little bit of that in the offensive line and replacing several starters. Defensively, we weren't probably quite as good as we were last year as we were in the past. So we're in a little bit of a rebuilding situation, even though we played a lot of young players that we hope and have had the right attitude and character to improve and be more consistent players. There still is some question marks about, how our defense comes together. We have 2 new specialists. We're probably going to have a freshman punter as our punter, and Adam Griffin is going to be a new field goal kicker. So, we're a team that has a lot of question marks, and it's always our intent to do everything that we can to help our players be successful in every way, in their personal development as well as academically, and being able to develop a career off the field, and which is what's going to benefit them most in life, as well as their development as football players. And that's what we're going to continue to try to do our best so that we can have the best possible program in the country. We had 3 changes on our staff. I know there's some interest. 2 of the guys, Bo Davis and Kevin Steele, had been on our staff before, so they're just coming back. But lots of interest in Lane Kiffin, who has done a really, really good job, for us. The players have responded to him very well. New energy, new enthusiasm, new ideas to do some things offensively that probably would enhance our chances of being successful. I'm really excited to have the opportunity to work with him. I think all of us would be remiss. I was a head coach once and then went back and worked as an assistant, and that's a difficult transition for anybody, and I think Lane has certainly handled that, very, very well.
Coach Todd Pulver with the Kansas City Star. I'm just curious, the BCS was pretty good the last 8 years to the SEC. What are your thoughts on the new college playoff and its impact and kind of adding that extra game to the schedule potentially?
Well, I think that I'm hopeful, that when we choose the teams that are in the playoff, that we take the 13 years of experience that the BCS had in tweaking their system of picking teams so that they get the right 4 teams in the game. That would be number one. I do think when you look at the history of the BCS, they usually got it right with their process. The criticism always came when there were more than 2 teams that were deserving. Now, the same thing is going to happen with the 14 playoff, because there's always going to be a 15 that could have been deserving that will create controversy. But I do think from a fan standpoint that this is going to be something that a lot of people have looked forward to. It'll be good for college football, and it's good for the game. Now, I think if we continue to expand, whether it's a playoff system or whatever it is, I think we're sort of getting to the saturation point when it comes to how many games can a college football player play without sort of overdoing it relative to the responsibilities that he has academically and the other things that are going on in their life besides just playing football games, because there's a potential for a player to play 15 games in our league with a championship game as well as 2 playoff games. So now there's only going to be a few teams that do that, and would certainly, and I'm sure every coach would certainly like to be one of those teams that had an opportunity to do that. But there's still, I think we have to take the student athlete's well-being into consideration if we continue to play more games.
Kirk Bowles from the Austin American Statesman. Nick, there were a couple of rumors about you in the off season. You probably didn't notice. I was curious if Texas did make you an offer to be their coach, was anywhere close to $100 million, and what was your level of interest in that job?
Well, I didn't have any conversations with them. Nobody offered me anything, and so I guess if I didn't have any conversations with them, I didn't have very much interest. I think the University of Texas is a fantastic place, and they've got a lot of wonderful people there, and it's a great institution. But this is about the station in my life where we are. We moved around a lot. If I had to do over, I'd have just tried to stay in one place and, establish a great program and not have all these goals and aspirations of things that eventually you weren't happy doing. So I'm very happy at Alabama. Miss Terry's very happy at Alabama. we certainly enjoy the challenges that we have there and the friends that we have established here, and this is where we just choose to, end our career someday. So it wasn't anything about any other place. It was just about where we are and what we want to try to do with the rest of our career.
Coach Saban, thank you for your time.
I only have one thing, just because I know if we lost this many games, you guys would be on me. But I know you all pick a winner in the conference, every year. I'm not saying who you picked this year. But last year, you'd actually been wrong, like 17 out of 21 times. Now you're wrong 18 out of 22. But you've also not picked the right team the last 5 years in a row. And every year that we've been fortunate enough to win the championship, you pick somebody else to win it. So just to let you know that we're evaluating you. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. I mean, that's great stuff. Couple of things. K-Mac, you heard what he said. And, the BCS, in his opinion, the guy's an expert. BCS, for the most part, worked. He does like the playoff. He is a little concerned about how much more the players are going to be asked to give. We'll let you comment on that after the break. We'll be right back.
Yeah, it keeps fading out for whatever reason. Could have something to do with it. Hell, and there I go. We all take spots here and there where we fade out. Stand by.
I mentioned the 7-on-7 teams coming through here. Just saw Coach Tom Knott from Dutch Fork High School. Got his crew here. The tournament actually begins tomorrow over at Hoover, and he's got a good crew. Got another strong team. We'll talk more about high school football coming up here in the next couple of weeks as we start to gear ourselves up for the start of the high school practice season and the high school season. So, K-Mac, you heard what Coach Saban had to say about the playoff and what's happened before and what's going to be happening moving forward. So, I mean, from my standpoint, being somebody who's in favor of the way it was, thinking it was good enough, I'm glad to hear that somebody of Saban's stature agrees with me.
Well, I mean, that good enough doesn't mean it can't be better. I mean, and we'll see how it plays out. But again, having 3 games that matter after November 29th is better than having no games that matter. after the end of the regular season and the conference championships, I guess the first week in December. So you get more meaningful football, and I don't think anybody would argue that that's a bad thing. And it's forcing them to get rid of these silly bowl tie-ins that they've had for so many years and these stupid rules where they say, well, you can't have more than 2 teams from one conference. If there's 3 deserving teams that belong in an Orange Bowl scenario, I mean, then they should be there. South Carolina has been quote-unquote BCS worthy each of the past 2 or 3 years, but haven't been able to go because of a kooky rule. That rule's gone now. So they are tweaking this thing to make it better, and I think that's good.
Let me point something out to you. This is in Bill Hancock's demonstration yesterday. You talk about the rules, this, that, and the other. As he was going through the different scenarios in, let me think, 2 of the years that he was laying out what could happen moving forward, where South Carolina was in the top 10. The Gamecocks got passed over because of the tie-ins. So, there are still tie-ins and there are still certain regulations that come into play even in this new system that's
Right.
going to
And I would
leave
get rid of
some
all
teams
those.
that are deserving to play up, they're going to have to play down.
I would get rid of all the – if I could wave a magic wand over anything, if we're going to have these bowl games, you cannot – but again, they should have. I mean, now they have gotten rid of some of the rules, and they're trying to mix things up, and I know they've changed the number of teams from a conference that can play in the quote-unquote what used to be BCS-type bowl games. But to me, I think it gets stale when you send – South Carolina to the Capital One Bowl and the Outback Bowl and just rotate the years. That gets old after about 5 years. So at least after every 3 or 4 years, they need to say, okay, ACC and SEC, we're going to do some flip-flopping here, and you get to go to the Champ Sports Bowl and, a different bowl somewhere else. You've got to mix it. SEC team goes to Charlotte one year, and the ACC team goes to the Gator Bowl. However you want to do it.
Just as long as they write the checks. I'm one of those people who are ambivalent on this situation. I just like good competition. The only thing I didn't like about the BCS is that 6 weeks delay. I just think teams get stale. I think if anything, the playoffs keep the teams hot, and those 2 teams that meet in the final will be playing hopefully their best football at that time.
Demand, and we bring you what you want right here on Sports Talk. Don't go away. Don't you dare leave us. We'll be back in a moment after this paid timeout.
The paid timeout with no signage. No, we also don't have any signage. I know you're there, man. We can hear you. We just can't see you. No, you're a goner. You're frozen in time, Corn. Not over here. I mean, dude, Jeff Scott. Yeah, well, I mean, that's why you recruit. You know, we knew we didn't have a lifetime contract with the big dogs. All right, stand by.
We're back at Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. Good to have you with us as we wrap up our 4-day stay here in Hoover, Alabama. We are, looks to be one of 3 shows still going at this point. And maybe 4. We're usually one of the last to leave because we're one of the last ones on the air. So, first to arrive, last to leave. That's how we work here on Sports Talk. And Sunday, Monday, we'll be at the ACC Media Days in Greensboro, North Carolina. Completely different arrangement there. On Sunday, they have the players, and you have a chance to interview any of the players that they bring. And we'll interview the Clemson players that are there. I've asked for the Clemson players and Jameis Winston. So we'll have that for you. I'm assuming they're going to make Winston available. They're bringing him, so I'm assuming they're going to make him available.
Let me suggest what you should have with you.
Dangle a crab leg out there.
He took it from me. I was suggesting what he needs to bring with him.
See, that's just not very professional, just not very nice. I was thinking more
get
about
the interview.
Throwing some
Bring
shrimp on the table. Subpoena. All right, and then on Monday it's the coaches, and we'll have some one-on-one interviews with the coaches as well as they make the rounds. But it'll be a different sort of deal than what we had here in Hoover because this is arranged in such a way where you get the coach, and then you've got an hour or so before the next one comes in. It gives you plenty of time to put different stories up on the website. Such will not be the case in Greensboro, but we'll still have very good coverage for you, and you'll get a lot of stuff on Clemson from us Sunday and Monday. Speaking of the Tigers, K-Mac, from your trip up to the mountains the other day, one person you had a chance to talk to, receivers coach and the recruiting coordinator, and who knows, maybe one day the offensive coordinator, Jeff Scott.
Yeah, depending on what happens with Chad Morris. Jeff Scott's done a heck of a job. Was at Blythewood High School where he won a bunch of games and won a state championship, and then Presbyterian, and now Clemson where he's moved up the ranks, and now he's got a little bit of a changing of the guard. No more Martavis Bryant, no more Sammy Watkins, but he has a good nucleus of players that he's excited about.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's why you recruit. You know, we knew we didn't have a lifetime contract with Sammy or Martavis or DeAndre Hopkins. And, the good news is by having some really good players that have been able to go out and have success, it's allowed us to recruit some really good players to come in behind them. And, as a coach, that's the fun part is to see, a guy come in and develop and leave and have a chance, obviously, to go on and play at the next level, and then to see that next group of guys coming in and just kind of know what that process looks like. And so, it's going to be fun. It's definitely going to be a challenge. We got some big shoes to fill, but I think we got a young and talented group, and they're definitely wanting to continue the tradition we've had the last few years at the wide receiver position.
Now, with my untrained eye, I've been looking at Mike Williams for a couple of years, pointing to him as a guy that looks like he could be the next big thing in terms of wide receivers at Clemson.
Yeah, Mike is very talented. I think it was great that he was able to play behind Martavis Bryant last year and really get some good reps. He got to play in a lot of games and not just mop up duty at the end, but really some critical plays in some games. And so being able to get that experience, I think, is very valuable. But he's a long receiver and runs better than people think, and catches the high point extremely well. Reminds me of a combination between DeAndre Hopkins, Alshon Jeffrey. I think he's kind of a mix, has some characteristics of both of those guys. And if he continues to work and he'll continue to get stronger, I think he's gained 15 pounds since he got to Clemson, and he's got a real big frame on him. He's going to be a big guy, and so I know he's excited about his opportunity this year.
Sharon Peak, another guy that you probably put in a category of a potential breakout now that he's healthy and he's going to get first-team reps.
Yeah, Sharon's a very talented player, and I think he was really disappointed that he got hurt last year. He was playing his best ball. I really think he was primed for a great year this past year, but he took that setback and worked extremely hard rehabbing, and he's got that look in his eye. I think that he's ready to go out and have a great year this year, and I think the silver lining in his injury is the fact that we'll get him now back for 2 years, and I think he's going to definitely be a featured guy for us here as we go forward.
And some of the new guys coming in that you think might have an opportunity if they can pick things up to contribute this season?
Yeah, I think obviously it was a huge advantage for 3 of our 4 freshman receivers were able to enroll in January, and that's just invaluable for them to be able to get in our off-season workout program and lifting weights and really get acclimated to school. And then obviously getting in the meeting rooms and learning the offense and learning the position and getting on the practice field. So I think all 3 of those true freshmen, Artavis Scott, from Florida, Kyron Priester from Georgia, and then also Damari Kidd, all 3 of those guys, I was very pleased with them in the spring, and I look for all 3 of those guys to have a chance to compete and play this year.
All right, K-Mac talking with the Tigers' Jeff Scott. So, yeah, you talk about their wide receivers, and, it's a different look with guys like Watkins and Bryant gone. I mean, you're talking about 2 NFL guys. Are there any guys in their receiving core now that you would say are NFL guys? Mike Williams, perhaps, after another couple of years of seasoning. Sharon Peak, who knows? Verdict is still out on him. He did not exactly light it up before his injury. Maybe he was starting to come on a little bit before he got hurt, and the hope is that he'll take it to another level. Artavis Scott has got tremendous speed, but he's a freshman. Of course, Adam Humphries is very dependable. And then you've got Priester, who's a big guy coming in, but he's brand new. Kidd has excellent speed. Hopper, they think he's got great skills if he can just put it all together on and off the field. So, you lose a guy like Sammy, gave you over 100 receptions, and Bryant ended up about I don't know exactly right in front of me, 45, 50 catches maybe. They've got to replace a lot of receptions, a lot of passing yards with some untested talent at wide receiver.
Yeah, I think Mike Williams is going to be really good. Now, Alshon Jeffrey, Nuke Hopkins combo. That's kind of scary. Yeah, but he does. When you look at him out there on the field, he looks different than the other guys. Even as a youngster, he's got that big body. He can go up and get the ball. I really like Mike Williams to be a big player and a guy that can be the next big thing at Clemson. Now, who's throwing in the ball? There's a lot of different factors. How much time the quarterbacks are going to get this season, but they've been recruiting really well. At the wide receiver position. Kitt's another guy that we don't know much about because he's been behind a bunch of guys, but I think we could get some new names into the threshold.
I just like the idea, and I've seen so much evidence of guys in the 6'2", 6'3" range, or even taller at wide receiver who had to play maybe forward or center in high school. Those guys have been taught how to box out and rebound. And most of those guys, you've seen them be able to equate those skills onto the football field. And even if a ball is underthrown and they're blanketed, they tend to come down with the football because of those traits developed in playing basketball. So anytime you see those guys like that, I think it's all to the good for the wide receiver position.
You know, people listen to us on a nightly basis as we're analyzing all this, and they hear me continually questioning things about Clemson in particular going into this season. And, you know, I'm just not making this stuff up. I think you seriously have to look at how much Clemson lost from the offensive side. And if you're a Clemson fan and you think rationally, you cannot expect this offense to be that productive. It's just not realistic. In my world, I just don't see that as being realistic. I mean, they can still be pretty good, but I just can't see them coming out of the blocks in September when they need to be good because they're playing Georgia and Florida State, you know, very quickly, and they need to be good or they're going to be gone in terms of national consideration, and that's what everybody thinks about now. The only thing they think about is the playoffs. This is what you get, K-Mac. All anybody cares about is the playoffs. So you lose 2 games and you're done.
That's why the defense has to rule the day for the first few games.
They can't shut everybody out.
No.
Other teams are going to score.
Won't have to.
Correct. See you, Senorita. Yeah, you can give it a shot. You got a minute. It's a good question. It should be just click on the old ones. I can't do that.
All right, let's give you the recruiting report on this Thursday night. As I watch these 7-on-7 teams just go back and forth, got to be some major recruits mixed in with all these kids. Wide receiver Alden Tate of Tampa was not able to visit Clemson this summer. Does not mean he won't visit in the future. He's out of Dutch Fork at one time. He left there in about the 8th or 9th grade. He just returned from the opening in Oregon, and he's going to visit Florida State next Thursday, Friday. Said he was hearing a lot more from Clemson during the spring, but not so much so far this summer. Still wants to see if he can get there for a visit. Said he could take an official visit. He does remain interested in the Tigers and plans to take all 5 officials. Even if he commits, he still wants to take all 5 visits. See, that's they got to fix that. How can they fix that? You know, they got to. Can they make a rule that says if you commit, you can't take any more visits?
Why would you begrudge these guys up for getting an all-expense-paid visit to a campus?
Then don't commit. Then don't commit. Don't go public with a commitment. Why go public with a commitment?
Go with their friends. I mean, I don't blame them at all. I don't have any problems with guys that say, you know what, I'm going to go have a good time on these official visits with my friends, even if I have no intention. Look, when I was in college, I went to Georgia and hung out. Well, that's not being disingenuous.
That's because you've made a pledge to another school. They're holding a spot for you, all right? And they're not going to recruit anybody else because they're holding that spot for you. But in your mind, you're still going to take visits somewhere else. You just might see something. You just might see something somewhere else you like more. Could be an ice cream machine. Could be a girl. Could be a dorm. Who knows? And all of a sudden, you flip. I mean, and I know it goes both ways. I know you can't trust coaches all the time either when it comes to this stuff. But you know, I just hate when a kid says, "I'm going to commit, but I'm still going to take my official visits." Then you're not committed. Anyway, back to our report. He attended a camp at Maryland and enjoyed that, and does not have any leaders and does not have a commitment date. I talked earlier in the week about Amonte Caban, the linebacker from Smith Station, Alabama, and I just wanted to add something to that from the text message he sent to me. He said right now he's liking South Carolina, Mississippi State, and Kentucky a lot. So I guess we consider those three maybe as his top 3. Offensive lineman Hudson Little from Bishop England picked up offers from Charleston Southern and Newberry. He's camped at Tennessee and Georgia. Also went to an Appalachian State camp in Charlotte. Defensive back Lane Ecton of Dutch Fork has committed to Georgia Southern, according to his coach. Ecton also had an offer from Elon. Last season, 132 tackles and 6 sacks. Defensive back Chad Clay from Sewanee, Georgia, 2016 defensive back. Listing Georgia, Auburn, LSU, Alabama, Texas A&M, Clemson, Nebraska, and Ohio State as his current favorites. 2017 wide receiver DJ Matthews, Jacksonville, committed to Florida State today. He had USC offers as well. Basketball. We begin with girls players for you. 5'9" Destiny Walker of Orlando. She's in the 2015 class, and she spells it D-E-S-T-I-N-E-E if you're keeping score at home. And she listed her top 7 in no order as USC, Georgia, Florida State, Duke, Penn State, North Carolina, and Notre Dame. So she must be pretty good. 6'5" Rayshawn Tucker A Clemson target for Charlotte was offered yesterday by Auburn. 6'11" Nick Marshall of Lexington, Tennessee, told Glenn Elrod of Gamecock Central his top 5: Ole Miss, Mississippi State, South Carolina, Clemson, and Indiana. Baseball. Left-hander Jacob Hennessy, 6'2", 210 of Bowling Springs, announced a commitment last night to Clemson for 2016. He's the Tigers' third commitment for that class, all of South Carolina. Has a good breaking ball, camped at Clemson and picked up an offer after that. He also plays first base. And some additional Clemson commitments for their 2015 class we have mentioned here. Infielder Jordan Green of Charlotte, right-hander Brooks Crawford of Watkinsville, Georgia, and right-hander Jamison Mobbs of Stratford. And there you go with the recruiting report for tonight. Let's get back to something you want to add.
No, that's it. Take all your visits, kids. Every last one of them. All 5.
Then don't commit.
Go anywhere you want. Commit what you want to do. Do you, kids. Do you. Just do you.
I gave you plenty of time. I know, we need to become more consistent. I'm trying to back away from the ledge here a little bit. Trying to back away from the ledge here just a little bit. What's today's date? 17. I'm ready to go back on vacation.
7 and 17. 14.
It looks like next week, Steak Man, we're going to start doing the show away from studio. So you may have a mini vacation here because it may all be run out of Jefferson City.
How long is it going to be?
I don't know. Hopefully not long. Hopefully they're going to get our studios up and running. They got to move stuff over, then they got to wire it, get all the little things put together. So hopefully it won't be long. We're not I don't know what they're, you prioritize, I guess, getting the newsroom up and running and operational is the priority. We come after that. Would be my guess. Let's see if my things still see, it's still, it gives me the old. It saved that. Why did it say the one? It didn't give me a save And so we come to an end of our stay here in Hoover, Alabama, after 4 glorious days of college football talk around the SEC. Hopefully you've been informed and updated, and we've helped you get ready for the upcoming season. Pro, what do you think our 4 days here from the coaches and players that we've heard from?
Has the camera picked up on me yawning here?
You were bored?
Yeah,
I the whole time.
Yeah, well, I really was. I didn't think they didn't say anything we didn't think they were going to not say. I thought the most interesting thing was off the field when they talked about the $100 million offer. I'm not too crazy not to believe that something like that didn't happen. Whether they talked to Nick Saban or not, they talked to his agent. The CIA said plausible deniability. Maybe he didn't, but his agent did. The one thing I think that's going to spice up your visit to the ACC media days is the ACC now has Bobby Petrino and the SEC doesn't. So it'd be interesting to see what he says coming into the ACC.
Absolutely. K-Mac, your thoughts about our 4 days here?
Oh, I always love the circus that is SEC Media Days. I never grow tired of that, especially considering the first 2 weeks of July are just blah. They're nothing. It's Deadsville. So you get to go into mock speed and finally start talking football. Talking season. It's the official start of talking season, which we love.
And Steven Garcia, making his appearance.
He was a star. I think Garcia might have been the star of SEC.
Can we send back and roll the tape from last year with Manziel and Clowney?
You think about it, and from a player standpoint, it was a media days pretty much devoid of stars. You had Early Today, and he was a big name, but I mean, let's face it, Bo Wallace doesn't send chills up and down your spine. There were very few must-listen to players here the last 4 days. And maybe that's because of the exodus of so many outstanding juniors. Imagine if that rule wasn't in place, those guys had to come back for their senior year. The players that would be walking around this place for the last few days would have been illegal. So anyway, that's the world of college football right now. And what this means, of course, is there's a lot of young talent in the league. Next year or two, they're going to make their names. They'll be showing up here next year and the year after. Like, we'll have T.J. Yeldon here next year, and no doubt he'll be a megastar. And there'll be other big-time players starting to arrive on the scene and maybe jazz things up just a little bit.
Yeah, and some of the guys ought to have some fun. Open your collar. Do like Manziel and Clowney. If you think the guy's scared, say it. Don't be straight-laced. Well, let me be politically correct here and just say things that won't have people angry and that sort of thing. No, that won't get you any juice.
We will see you tomorrow night from Columbia. Have a great night, everybody, and thanks for being with us here on Sports Talk. See you tomorrow.